There's over 200 people in here right now. This is pretty cool. We haven't done one of these webinars in a while, so yeah, let's see. Chelsea, you already jumped in with a question. Will a recording be available afterward? Yes, we will definitely make sure that we follow up with that. Lex will follow up with some more details. We'll reiterate this a couple times as well during the webinar as multiple people jump in and out, but rest assured, recording will be available. Okay. Well, it's top of the hour. I'm sure people are going to be slowly coming in. This is our, to date, I think our biggest sign up for a webinar yet. We had over, I think it was right about near 1,200 people were interested in learning about account-based prospecting. And so we're excited to get to share that with y'all today. There's already 350 people and counting and growing joining into this. So we'll get this thing started. But first off, I want to say thank you for signing up, for coming and joining us for this. This is a really fun release for us, the account-based prospecting product that we've rolled out. So I'm sure you've got questions. Y'all have been patient with us as we've been communicating this out, but this is exactly what we're going to get into today. So as we do get started into this, what are you going to come away with today by the end of this session? So first, you're going to learn what is account-based prospecting. You're going to see us refer to it as ABP. What is this thing? I've never heard of it. Don't worry, you're not alone. This is what new products are. So we're going to get into that with you. Why should you care as a recruiter? So how is it different from what you're currently doing? Is it really better? So on and so forth. So we'll unpack that for you. And then lastly, the fun part. We're going to get into some real world use cases that are going to help show you how to 10x your biz dev results. So we're going to take it from this theoretical level and bring it down to what it looks like in practice. And we've got two of our own senior CSMs, Angela and Lorcan, who are going to get into that with us. So before we get into that rest of that, just going to do some quick intros for some of the faces that you're going to see on the side. So I'm Sam Keenley. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Loxo. You're going to see Lorcan and Angela on the side who will be presenting. So Lorcan, if you want to start and just give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll have Angela do the same.
Yeah, of course. I'm Lorcan. I've been with Loxo for about 4 years now, and I am a strategic account manager in Dublin, Ireland.
Hi, everybody. I'm Angela Schorsch. I'm one of the strategic account managers here at Loxo. I've been with us for about 2.5 years, and I'm located in the US.
And then many of you are familiar with Dan, our training expert guru. So he's here, he's helping to host. And then you'll also see Lex, Vivian, and Denton from the team. They're going to be help moderating Q&A and anything else. So pop any questions that you have into the side and they'll help make sure that we get all of that answered for you today. All right, so let's jump on in. What is account-based prospecting? Account-based prospecting, ABP, is the first native commercial search engine for sales and business development built directly into a recruiting platform. It's a fully enriched B2B company and contact search engine. Give me a sec. I'm going to tell you what that means in English because yes, that sounds jargony. That's what we do in marketing and in sales. So what does this actually mean for you? It's a business development strategy for recruitment agencies that works. So this spans also beyond recruitment agencies, but there's this concept in marketing and sales. It's called the 95-5 rule. So at any given time, roughly 5% of those that you sell your products or services to are actively in market. They have something that they need something like you, something's not working, and so they're shopping. Meanwhile, 95% of your market, they're happy with what they have. They're already in a contract with someone. They're not hiring right now, anything like that. And so what this really gets into is differentiating between those two. So for example, MPC is designed to capture the existing demand for recruiters. So as I said about that 5% rule earlier, they're actively hiring. You're going and pitching these top candidates for them and hoping that you get in that way. Where account-based prospecting comes in is it creates and captures that demand within the market. So what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to be set up to capture those 5% who are actively shopping or in need of services. But what it's going to do more importantly, and what we're going to get into today, is it's going to have you be top of mind for the remaining 95% of the market. There was a study conducted by, I believe it was Bain, where they showed effectively when someone goes to market for a product or a service, usually they have a short list in mind, 3 to 4 to 5 potential options before they even go to Google, before they start talking to peers. And what Bain found was that 70% of the time, the buyer goes with one of those people that were on that short list. So this is a testament to, okay, the goal isn't to figure out how do I show up on Google? How do I make sure that I'm involved in the right conversations? But how do I get on this mental short list with those that I want to be working with and have as clients of ours? And that's what we're really solving for with account-based prospecting. So why should you care? Like, why does this matter? So selfishly on the Loxo side, this might be one of most important product releases in our history. As you know, recruitment software is evolving from point solutions that are bolted onto an ATS and moving over to a single platform that handles the end-to-end jobs to be done of a recruiter. And this is what we're building here, the talent intelligence platform. So you're no longer constrained by the legacy fragmented workflows. You've got 10 plus different tools that you're using, all the windows open. You're buying data from different sources. You're doing manual research, inaccurate contact information. Someone even commented on a LinkedIn post today about, it sounds like this is kind of like, I'm not going to say the name of one of the contact providers here, but does this solve for this? Is that better inaccurate contact information, which we all know we deal with? Incomplete integrations from those bolted onto the ATS and ultimately leading to a clunky CRM workflow. Ultimately for you, why this matters is this is the best way to do business development for recruitment agencies. Full stop. I will die on that hill with how much I believe in this. And no one has built this before in recruitment. This exists in other industries. Exists in SaaS, in tech, in multi-million dollar 8 to 10 figure companies. This is how they operate with a lot of their business development philosophy. And this is now bringing that ability to you. You're no longer constrained by resourcing or anything else, but you have the ability to do this. And this is why we're personally so excited about it. So moving into why should you care? Like, how is this different from what I'm currently doing? Yes, this all sounds good on paper, but am I kind of doing this? Am I not? I'm not really sure. So I'm breaking this down into basically current state and then what this new state is going to look like. The current state, business development variables are mostly out of your control. You're relying on job postings to find out who could need your services and then using that as a signal to go and start to pitch them. You're relying on relationships with quality candidates that you already have, the NPCs, and the value that they possess, their skills, their experience to gain the attention of the decision makers at prospects. And then accessing databases of potential prospect accounts, contacts within, and their contact information has been largely cost prohibitive and disjointed. It's been expensive, hasn't been easy. So mapping all of the prospects in your market has ultimately been a pipe dream. So what's this new state look like? You're taking control. You're going to own the variables. And this is where it gets really exciting. So you're going to have access to all the relevant prospect accounts in just a few clicks. You're also going to get the decision makers and the relevant contacts and their contact information from that account list. And you're going to be able to develop relationships with them before they need to hire. So you're going to be their go-to as soon as your skills are needed. And this is where that 95% that I was talking about earlier really comes in. So we're going from pipe dream to being able to do this in minutes. And that's on, I can't wait to let Angela start to show some of us in a few minutes just how easy this really does become. All right, so until today, this would have taken months to search, to aggregate, to organize, and to execute upon. Now it takes less than an hour. I did a video the other day. It really took me less than 60 seconds to do it. But when you do look at the comprehensive end-to-end, and this is where Lorcan's part's going to come in, he's going to show you the full workflow and what that looks like when you think about this as part of your business development strategy. But you don't have to deal with switching tools. You don't have to worry about making expensive data purchases. You don't have to do manual research. You don't have to deal with inaccurate contact information, and clunky workflows are going to be a thing of the past. But wait, there's more. All right, sorry. I couldn't resist throwing this in, the tacky 90s infomercial graphic. But we've been harping on email deliverability for a while, and this is where we say we want to help recruiters be successful. The account-based prospecting strategy plays into this, and it's so crucial because ABP starts with the who. The who is the single most important part. That's what are the accounts that are relevant to me. And so this is bridging the gap of, okay, now that you know exactly who you're talking to, and it honestly, it shouldn't be this giant universe. It should be very specific. I want to talk to people in this niche with these types of roles, and they currently do XYZ as part of their day-to-day jobs to be done. This is where it ties into your biz dev, your outreach. So relevance and value are going to be the name of the game in terms of how you're demonstrating value of yourself, how you're educating the market. So this is going to work hand in hand with making sure that email deliverability is not hit, actually going to improve upon if you follow this strategy. Finally, who has access before we start to get into the fun part that you all came here for? So this is included in any plans that contain Loxo Source. I've had many conversations with Matt about this. I can't believe we're giving this away more or less for free. If you have Loxo Source, go and look at Zoom Info, go and look at Apollo. Those are not cheap. Those are expensive. It's very good data, and that's what this is ultimately going to help you replace. So if you have Loxo Source today, you already have access to this. If you don't, reach out to us, let us know. We'll be happy to chat about what that would look like for you. But ultimately, that is the background on what is account-based prospecting, what's it matter to you, and now we're going to get into the fun part, and we will wrap everything up with Q&A. We're leaving about 15 to 20 minutes at the end so we can make sure we hit on the big questions that are coming up from this today. So, Lorcan, I will pass it off to you to talk through some of this, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Sam, and obviously welcome everybody. I suppose from my perspective and from the CS team's perspective, what we're really thinking about is, okay, great, ABP is good, Sam's introduced it, but how do I do this? How do I go to identify that people that are in that 95% of the market that Sam is talking about? We want to be proactive. We just put our heads together and came up with some examples in terms of how it can be used. So naturally, targeting larger customers to what you guys are currently using, identifying 5 to 10 core ICP companies based on size and headquarters location. Obviously, using a Loxo outreach campaign, you'll be able to share your stats, what makes you different from the crowd. Secondly, to dominate your niche. So identifying companies that are in your industry, and naturally doing that, you can share success stories, what you've achieved and how you can deliver and how you have delivered for your clients' top tier talent. Next, we've got revitalize dormant relationships, identifying past jobs and companies that you've worked with in the past through ADP. You then can naturally see if a POC is missing, if there's other stakeholders or decision makers that you think would be of value to chime in on that conversation. Obviously, ADP is the best resource in order to do that. And last but not least, entering new markets to identify core ICP prospects through the ADP based on industry. Fundamentally, all of these parts combined are just use cases as to how you guys can use it to access that extra 95% of the to be as proactive as you possibly can. I'll pass now over to Angela. Angela's going to give us some walkthrough of actually how it looks, how it feels, how it works, and we will go from there.
Thanks, Lorcan. Hi, everybody. All right. Sam or Lorcan, can I just get a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen?
Yeah,
We
can see it.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So let's walk through how you can pinpoint companies and your decision makers that you need for your services to allow you to, what Sam said, to build those strategic, deeper relationships so that they're already there before the urgent hiring needs are. I want to first just walk through where you access it. So as Sam mentioned, if you have access to Loxo Source, you have access to ABP. So that's going to be anywhere you have. So on your navigation bar, Loxo Source, or from your person page up here, when you click on Loxo Source, it's going to bring you over. You'll notice now that in the navigation in the upper center, you have companies. So you're going to go ahead and click on that companies, and you can see that it toggles over. So that's the first part. You can also access it from the companies page if you have the knowledge of knowing it. Just up on the right-hand side, the source button's there as well. So if you're in your company page, it is accessible there. So now let's go ahead and just take a quick glance at and talk and look at what's available over here on the left-hand side. So you'll notice first we have our Boolean bar in the upper left-hand corner that you can do your advanced keyword searches. And then we jump into some powerful filters that we provide inside of the ABP. So you can have your company name if you're identifying or want to find those stakeholders at a specific company itself. And then you have your filters for company size, industry sector. You're working your way down into where the location is if you want to dive into a specific geographical area. If you want to dive into the funding stage and looking for companies in a particular growth phase, those are available for you. When they were funded, you also have where you can go into estimated revenue, growth stage, and then type for profit or non-for-profit. So just getting you a little bit familiar here with what's available of the searching, let's dive into just an example to search for a potential client company in the construction industry. So say we're looking for a mid to large size construction company in the greater Chicagoland area. So I'm going to move up here into our filters. And I'm going to look and I'm going to go ahead and add my industry sector and my company size. So my company size here, mid to large, we're going to choose, the 201 to 1,000 up to 10,000. And then industry sector, I'm going to go ahead and start to type in construction. So as we start to type in construction, I'm going to pause for just a second so you can see that the AI is generating some other options for you. So in our example, we're going to go ahead and choose construction, and then I'm going to also go ahead and add in building construction. So now we have our industry sector and our company sizes. You see as we're going through this, the results are starting to populate over on the right-hand side. But now, as I mentioned before, I want to look at specifically the market I'm looking for that I want it to identify my contacts in is going to be the Chicagoland area. So here, I'm going to add Chicago. I'm going to actually choose Greater Chicago area and make that specific there. Seeing and observing the results over here on the right-hand side is giving me now a list of potential companies in the construction market for the Chicagoland area. You can see that there's additional revenue, there's additional if they have the latest funding, and you can continue to add into the categories here for estimated revenue. If you really want to focus on something that is more of the 50 or 500, you can start to dwindle it down even further. So now that you have this select companies, you'll notice that you have some decisions. So you can start to go ahead and look at those that are available here. And what you're going to want to do next is start to see how you want to engage with the identified companies themselves. You have the select all if you want to select all of them. More importantly, I may want to be looking and focus my target to say, I just want to look at a couple of them at one time. So I'm going to select ABK Engineering and WE O'Neill Construction. And when you do that, then you also are going to have where you can find a decision maker. So the AI here is taking those people together and they're looking at those selected decision makers for the organizations that you've selected. When you do that, you also have view employees, but let's start here with finding the decision makers. You can see it's going to start to pull together anybody that is in those CFOs, CEOs, vice presidents, those people that you're going to want to bring into starting to select and engage with. You can go ahead and select those, and then you're going to be adding them to where your next steps are, which I will allow Lorca to talk about that momentarily. But this, you're going to select, fetch their contact information, bring them into your database, and start to engage with them from here. So once you do that, or if you are now wanting just to see view all employees, that is another option for you. So alternatively, you can just see a company list of everybody that works at these organizations. It's going to be useful for if you want to broaden your search just beyond the ones that the AI has already identified for decision makers. Maybe you're looking for somebody specific or a specific department head, and you can go ahead and further refine with title, location, even further, seniority to get to those people here as well. So you can see in just under 5 minutes, we've been able to really hone in on some of the top companies. We can select a few, we can select all, and dive into seeing those contact information and start to engage with them. One other just example, just to go through, is if you have a specific company in mind that you're wanting to go ahead and target and find the contact people. So going into some of what Lorcan just discussed as well about the different use cases and purposes of why you'd be coming here. We're going to go ahead and again, I'm just going to show where just under companies how to get back to that as well. So say I'm working with one of my clients and I wanted to look to find somebody, a new person to be able to target. You're on the companies page. You can access Loxo source right from here. And again, it's going to load you into the company section already. So now for my cases, I am currently working with, and I have a customer, and I want to find somebody new within their organization, or I want to find the new leader that just took over. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in the example. I'm going to look at Virgin Hotels. which is a hotel that's located in the Miami area. And I can see and get to that organization very quickly. And then I can see if I want to find more information about this company, you can click right on Virgin Hotels here. You're going to see employees, revenue, when they were founded, and it's going to give you some featured people right here that you can automatically start to bring in and start to communicate with for your organization and for business prospecting. Same thing still here. If you would like to find the decision makers, you're just going to select the single one or all employees to continue to find more people. So just with a couple of clicks, you're able to dive in, get to your points of contacts, and start to engage with them from there. So that concludes just a walkthrough of how it can help you pinpoint and engage with target companies and decision makers. So I'm going to go ahead and let Lorcan take it a step further and hand it over to him to walk you through that complete end-to-end workflow we talked about. So you can see exactly how to transform your prospects over into outreach efforts and managing them through the cycle. Lorcan?
Excellent, excellent. I'm just going to share my screen now. There we are. Super. So as Angela perfectly mentioned, you're going to be identifying your prospects in various different ways across company filters, industry filters, whatever it may be. But in those scenarios whereby you have identified the individual, you've identified the specific company that you're wanting to reach out to. The most important thing about ABP is being relevant and adding value to that customer. We are or potential prospect, should I say, rather than customer. Naturally, what we're going to be doing now, I'll just use Ilya here as an example, our co-founder. Essentially, we're going to be finding contact information for Ilya. So given that it's going to be business development related, I'm going to go ahead and try and find his work email address. Once that's loading in the background, I'll just click into Ilya's profile here. And what we'll do is we'll actually add Ilya to that outreach campaign. So the outreach campaign, I've just made a quick example here. So the ABP ICP for our niche. And just to give some high level kind of oversight of the areas that naturally you guys can go in, you can customize, personalize the individual stages. This is an outreach campaign that I've already created, but the idea here, as mentioned, is really kind of bringing across the value, being as relevant as possible. So highlighting a common pain point as an example I'm using, giving your value up proposition, showcasing your expertise, having a call to action, offering a tailored solution, and then last but not least, naturally, resource sharing if that prospect or individual prospect did not reach out in a specific moment in time. That outreach campaign naturally can have more than one person in it. So naturally, you will be able to bring them into that window and go from there, managing their journey, bring them into a deals pipeline under business development to kind of manage and nurture that relationship as it's moving out of that kind of lead or prospect stage, as it starts to kind of warm up and move through the process. Naturally, that's what the deals part of the platform is used for. So ABP is really, really useful in terms of identifying those high level those top decision makers at your companies that you want to reach out to. It's being proactive. You can create a nurture campaign. You can create a campaign for ICP. You can create a campaign for specific niches. It doesn't have to be one use case. You can use more than one, of course. Spend a couple of moments, like Angela mentioned, going through that process, having a BD hour, so to speak, during the day, running through, finding individuals, adding them into that campaign, and naturally letting the outreach automations take care in the background. So yeah, hopefully that helps run through the actual kind of next step, so to speak. So taking your individuals, your people outside of actually this window here, opening up your profiles. Naturally, you'll be able to add them to lists, add them to call queues, add them to an outreach campaign in this scenario. So that is obviously, I suppose, the next kind of stage in that process and that journey. I'll pass it back to Sam. Naturally, we're coming up at around 40 minutes now, so I believe we're kind of approaching Q&A hour. I can see that there's many already in there. So yeah, would love to pass it back over to you, Sam. We can go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you both for running through that. Hopefully that was nice for everyone to be able to see how does this work? What does this look like? Especially when we do start to go from theory and get into practice. So I know we've had a number of questions come in. We will answer some live. We will personally follow up one-to-one with some of you on other ones. And then we'll also be sending the email recap to everyone who has joined and who has not been able to join with some of those. So Lex, Vivian, Denton, I'm not sure which one of you, if one of you guys wants to let us know the best way that you want us to answer some of these, if you want to read them off and we can tag team it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, we definitely have quite a few questions in the chat. So like Sam said, we won't get to all of them live, but rest assured we will answer every question. We're taking them all down. So you'll hear from us after the fact if we don't get to your question live. So we're getting a lot of questions about kind of workflow stuff here. One of them is around fetching contact information. When it comes to, fetching one form of contact information, can you then go back and fetch a second time if you wanted to pick up a cell phone number when you got an email, that kind of thing? And just when it comes to contacting or finding decision makers, can you go back through that workflow part of the process again? Because we've gotten a few questions on that.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to. So naturally, as Lex explained, we can go back. So for example, here with Ilya, as we mentioned, we got his work email in that scenario. If it was the case that we wanted to find additional pieces of contact information, naturally we can do so. So as you see there, we will have the option to find personal email addresses. And in this scenario here, as Lex mentioned, finding an individual's phone number. Obviously, if it's readily available to us, we will push through those updates onto your system. So yes, hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah. And to
Okay.
take into
Oh,
that
sorry,
real
Sam, you
quick,
go.
I know one question that we've been getting from customers has been, I used to be able to get all the contact information with one click. Why is it being separated? It was because we were building into this feature because, as you know, personal email information is much harder to get than work email. And so that's why we weight the credits significantly different. It's going to be much cheaper to get work emails versus personal. You don't always want a full credit for everything. And so that's part of the decision why we started to get into this with the plans that was building towards this future. Appreciate the patience and all of you as we've got through, but hopefully you're able to see today just exactly why we did make that decision.
Okay, so Lorcan, if you could share your screen one more time. We had a
Absolutely.
question specifically around kind of going through the step of adding these people to an outreach campaign and then just kind of more slowly going through that process. There are a couple of questions
100%.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So essentially what I was doing in this scenario here is I'm finding my identified people. You can do it in this view on the ABP when I have the actual company up, or like Angela mentioned, when we have multiple companies and you click that view employees button, that technically will have the same process whereby we're simply just opening up a profile here. So for example, Ilya, Bugs Bunny, Learning Loxo, Loxo L. We're going to open up those profiles. And when doing that, I personally would use the slider. I'm on rather small screen right now, so the slide is not sliding as much as I would like it to. But in this scenario here, what I can do is I can add to an outreach campaign either in one of two areas. So this area here, add to Loxo outreach campaign, or just on the right hand side, add to Loxo outreach, and that will both have the same end result, so to speak. Those individuals will then go into those campaigns. We certainly have some outreach content out there that if you guys do have any questions on that in a bit more detail, feel free to click the question mark icon in app. You'll see it down here in the bottom left hand corner. Reach out to our support team. Dan, our trainer, he's on this call. He's curated some amazing videos as the years have gone on. So obviously if there's any kind of specific things that aren't looking right to how I'm showing it or demonstrating it right now, please do not be afraid to reach out to us. But hopefully that answers the question, Lex.
Perfect. Another question that we have that's a bit more general. Does this tool work for retained search firms or just contingency?
I suppose I'll take that, Angela. Or Sam, do you want to go ahead? Share it around. Yeah, it will work for all various firms. As Sam kind of mentioned, this is not specific to a recruitment industry. ADP in general is used across the board in technology and SaaS in all different industries worldwide. Loxo is just adapting that and bring it to your fingertips as far as recruitment agencies are concerned. So naturally, all the facets of recruitment agencies, contingent, retained, etc., will all have Loxo's ADP at their fingertips.
Awesome. Can you search by similar companies? We've gotten that question quite a few times.
I don't believe we're able to at this time. It looks like Lorcan's looking. This is, why we're excited to get this out. This is V1. It's only going to continue to improve. I've seen a lot of questions about, can we find similar companies? How can we do Boolean to find certain types of job decision makers within it? So send us all this feedback, all the things that are important to you. This is how we bring you the big overarching vision, and now we start to make those fine-tuned adjustments for what's important to you, what's going to be most impactful, and that's going to influence how we continue to update and iterate upon this. So send those recommendations our way, support at loxo.co, send it to to go into the help area of Loxo that Lorcan pointed out earlier, and we'll definitely work through these. But yeah, any feedback, we'd love to hear it from y'all, because at the end of the day, we want it to be valuable for you as you use it.
We're getting some questions about just overall outreach, deliverability. This is something we touched on lightly. I know we have a ton of resources on this that I'll be sending out after the fact, but any notes, Sam, Angela, Lorcan, that you guys want to share as far as just general best practices go, once you do add these kind of targeted accounts to an outreach campaign?
I'm happy to field part of that. Yeah, so when you're targeting prospects or even just candidates for email deliverability, hyper personalization is number one, and a way to look at your subject lines, right? So discriminating between something that is going to be unique in your subject line for those people individually, and the more that you can do that, you're going to get a couple returns on that. You're going to get the higher open rate for them actually reading the content of your information, as well as it's going to be landing and go under the radar in terms of any filters and things like that that are set up with their email domains.
Yeah, I think definitely, Angela, as well. From what we've seen over the last number of years, email deliverability has definitely changed. It's gone very much from being a sender's market, as it was previously, now very much to a recipient's market. Let's be honest, nobody likes spam or any kind of emails that they don't want in their inbox. I'm the kind of person that likes to have my inbox at the end of the day at zero. Never happens, but ultimately that's what large providers like Google, like Microsoft, the titans of the industry are trying to do. They're trying to make your life as an individual easier. Naturally, on the flip end of that, that is making businesses harder and trying to get in front of your prospects, get in front of your candidates. So as Angela mentioned and Lex mentioned, we do have a lot of resources out there. We have an article that I'll just demonstrate. We've got our email best practices article. It runs through a lot of the details that Angela mentioned as well. We've got podcasts on it, but it's really personalizing as much as possible, sending consistently, avoiding spammy messaging, avoiding things that would replicate spam behavior. So if you think about a spammer, they're going to open up a domain, blast out 1,000 emails, and then get that domain blocked. You guys should, and what we'd love is, naturally your emails would just land 100% of the time, but ultimately we are at the behest of your Google, of your Microsoft, of those titans. So personalizing small batches, keeping it refined, obviously ties in really, really well to the ADP conversation that we're having right now.
Awesome. So another question that we are getting quite a bit is just around, again, more back to like the workflow side of things, connecting what you're doing in ABP to deals that you're working. Is there anything within that workflow that you guys can touch on, whether it's current or work in progress type stuff?
Sorry, Angela, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Larkin. You're good.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, so deals is obviously different depending on the specific, the specific company that you guys are working with. Your deals board will look slightly dissimilar to mine or similar to mine. It just depends. So in this scenario here, essentially deals in Loxo is used for business development purposes. That's obviously what you're doing in ADP. Going through this process, we don't necessarily recommend creating a deal card for absolutely every single company you've ever reached out to or every single candidate you've spec'd out, whatever it may be. Obviously, your deals pipeline, it can be used very much for the core ICP customers that you or prospects that you guys want to get in touch with. Naturally, within that journey, then as they are progressing, first reach out, second reach out, etc., very similar to the job process. You can drag and drop. You can estimate revenue based on the deal value that you've inputted. So typically speaking, when you are creating a deal, you will assign a specific contact associated with that. As you can see, we've got Baby Shark associated with this deal. That contact, Baby Shark, I'm assuming will be in an outreach campaign and naturally be going through that process. So your deal card is kind of your area where you're going to have all of the information associated. Your team, you guys can leave notes. Obviously, as the deal progresses, you then can convert that to one. You'll get some amazing confetti, convert that into a job opportunity, and naturally go from there. So from a deal perspective, just to reiterate, it's not ADP is not directly linked. However, that is definitely something that we're looking at. I know Sam was nodding earlier on. It is something that the amazing team of engineers at Loxo are certainly looking at and planning on kind of integrating it slightly better over time.
Exactly. Yeah, like how current workflow is basically once a deal started and progressing forward, now it's okay, how do we just understand who is our entire ICP universe, so ideal customer profile, that's the prospects, and then okay, who's aware of us? Who's engaged with us? Who do we have relationships with? Who has gotten into active conversations about it? And almost preloading that deal's journey so you can have a better sense of okay, if I have 100 prospects, have I at least engaged 60 of them, 50 of them? What's that number look like? So you can have more visibility into that. So that's how we think about, again, the end-to-end workflow and how does it all fit into one platform. So those are more of the iterations that are going to continue to come with future releases. But that's the fun part that we get to think about is what does this look like for recruiters specifically versus you having to try to accommodate this from other pieces of tech that doesn't natively fit in for you.
Okay, so we're also getting a lot of questions about searching for or finding job titles at ABP companies. Can one of you guys walk us through that a little bit more?
Hi, Kenya. All right. So for job titles at a company, so we'll just go back. We'll start to we'll just say we're looking for an industry sector of software, company sizes that are between 51 and 1,000 people. We'll go ahead and go select some funding stages at this point, since we didn't demonstrate that before. And maybe we want one of that has been started within the last 1 to 10 years to start to see our results dwindle here. So this is again building on to get to the ideal sectors of the individuals for your people that you're looking to contact. So here we have some of our organizations that we may want to be considering. Let's go ahead and add just let's see. Let's do a location. We'll do the San Francisco Bay Area. Let's see if we can get this down just a little bit. All right, so from here, so once you find the companies that you would be looking to target, you're going to go ahead and find those decision makers. When you find those decision makers, if you're looking to then hone in further on a title, so again, still using that AI to pull your decision makers, but now out of these 67 decision makers, I only want to see those that are, for example, a founder or a partner or a VP. You can go ahead and use the title search here and you can build it in here to be able to select what that would be. Or you can type in vice president. So we're looking for if they have the vice president title. And then you're getting to the 5 decision makers for the 2 organizations that you've targeted here. And you're able to select the decision makers that you have that you're wanting to bring in. And just to show another, you can add them straight to your campaign from here to bring it full circle. So now you've identified those individuals. You'll want to go ahead and say, I want their work email first. Go ahead and do that. And then you can have them selected still and add to campaign from here. If you've looked at for these, if you're looking at to view all employees, and maybe it's somebody that is a department head, same thing. You can use the title. You can also say, I want to see everybody that's at manager level with these organizations out of the 340 total. And now I'm down to 49 and can continue to filter from there, make my decisions on finding their work emails, maybe their work phone numbers, and then again, adding them into an outreach campaign.
I can also see a question, Lex, that I'll just answer. So any person that you are adding into an outreach campaign, you're trying to find contact information on, you're basically bringing them into your system. So the question from that from an individual was, I'd love it for them to be brought into the system as contacts when they're sourced from ADP. They will be. So those individuals, once you interact with them, add them to a list, try and find contact information, whatever it may be, they will then be a part of your contact pool in Loxo. Another question that I saw, I was just scouring through the Q&A. Loxo will not use your company data that you have on the system and share that to other Loxo customers. That is an absolute no-no. Your database is your gold mine. You use it. You can use Loxo to supplement that, add in new companies, add in new contacts, but certainly that information isn't shared. We've brought in all of that data essentially for our users. We don't necessarily drag it or take it out of your individual accounts. Just wanted to clarify those 2 questions before you jump in with the next one, Lex.
Great clarification. Yeah, we've gotten that question a couple of times, so thank you for addressing that. Another question that we've gotten quite a few times is around saved searches. Is this a current feature? Is this a coming soon? How could that kind of play into the roadmap here?
Yeah, that's a coming soon. So a lot of the stuff that you see and use in Loxo Source, we're going to be bringing that over to companies. So saved searches in the job titles when Angela was going through it, you saw that was from a pick list instead of a Boolean. So we'll be updating things like that again. Very much a V1. Send us what's most important to you. That's going to help our team prioritize what they do focus on that will get you starting to use it today. But all those things that you know and love will be coming before long.
Another question is around bulk ads. Can you fetch all contact information at once, or do you have to go one by one? And then also, can you add multiple people at the same time, essentially, rather than going one by one? We've gotten that question a bunch.
Yeah, so that I would say stay tuned for that version of being able to bulk fetch contact information. Really, with ABP, it's being mindful of who are the strategic partners you want to engage with for the opportunities, get in touch with for whether it's potential candidates that you might have available for them, break into a new market. So you're getting in touch with those. So currently today, it is just going and selecting those individuals specifically.
Amazing. I also want to clarify, you will be able to bulk add individuals into outreach campaigns or lists by selecting all. I'll just pull it up on my screen, but as Angela perfectly mentioned, it's not currently possible, but it's certainly something that I've heard as well. So we'll definitely be passing on that feedback to the product team. So essentially, I just selected Loxo here, find decision makers, and then bulk select all. And this is where I can choose the add to button into the campaign and into the list.
Awesome. So we have a question. This goes back to workflow as well. When it comes to integrating ABP into your existing recruitment workflow, how would you go about kind of one, setting that structure in place, and then two, making sure that your entire team is leveraging the tool effectively, and just kind of making sure that, yeah, like everyone is bought in and using it to the best of its ability?
I think my recommendation from that perspective is number one, really define your, I suppose, swim lanes, whatever you'd like to call them, your use cases for using ADP. So if it's going to be you wanted to dominate a niche, target larger organizations, revitalize client relationships, naturally those are going to have different communication comms, different outreach styles, different kind of POCs that you're going to be reaching out to. Obviously, if you're revitalizing a dormant client relationship, you might be reaching out to HR, or the hiring manager that you previously spoke with. Whereas if you're dominating a niche, naturally you're selling to the MD or the director of that company. So I definitely think number one, defining your specific areas or swim lanes, as I like to call them, firstly. Then, secondly, I would be creating outreach content off of the back of that. As we said, you can personalize that content, but having a general kind of play by play, right? This is what we do when we have these individuals. And then naturally, once you have those two processes built out, in my opinion, I'll certainly let Angela and Sam jump in as well. That's when I would bring it over to the team and kind of roll out the new our new business development process for capturing that extra 95% of the market that right now we're not seeing.
Yes, and we timed up a release on our podcast, Becoming a Hiring Machine. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you do. But just today, we dropped episode 201, which is touching on a lot of this, like what is a company's prospecting, but like getting started, how does it fit into the workflow? So the first thing that Lex and I covered is define your ideal customer profile, define your swim lane, define your niche, because that's going to be the most impactful. Like starting with the who, that's the most important because the who is going to determine the what, the message, the outreach, how you're adding value to them. So go listen to that. That definitely supplements this conversation well. But at the end of the day, like that's going to dictate how you're engaging them, how you're going about it. Because that's what we hear from you all the time is like, I want to be focused on the relationships, that side of it. And that's what ABP is leaning into so much. It's knowing who you should be creating those relationships and finding ways to add value to them ahead of time, proactively. And that's really where the superpower of this comes into play.
Okay, so we're getting some more questions about outreach. So I think it might be helpful to just kind of show that step of the process one more time. One question that we have is, do you need to create a campaign first before you start doing your ABP workflow so that when you hit add to campaign, they've got the right place to go? And then just when it comes to customizing an outreach campaign, how much customization capabilities do we have within Loxo when it comes to the subject line, when it comes to the contents of the email, versus how much is templated?
Sorry, I'm on mute there. Happy to take that one. So absolutely, number one, the outreach campaign will need to be created prior to you adding in those individuals. So that's definitely the kind of number one step, is going through the general messaging that you are going to be sharing with your prospects, adding in your delays between events. So for example, this email, if I were to add in somebody right now, they would receive that email in 15 minutes. 2 days from that moment in time, they will then receive the second email should they not have replied. If they do reply, those individuals will automatically pause. So that's important to note. When you are initially creating the campaign, definitely take a look at your campaign settings. It's always a recommendation of mine. Just take a look, put in a nice title that you're going to be able to refer back to in a couple of months' time and know exactly what you were trying to do. Share it with your team for cross collaboration. Respect operating hours. Should you want it only going out at a reasonable hour, just because you're working late doesn't necessarily mean your prospect has to get an email at an unsociable hour. So just take a look at those initial campaign settings. Once you have the campaign created and you have it turned on, if I just jump back into a profile here, so for example, if I jump into our Loxo L, the option that I certainly recommend to people is on the right hand side here, just beneath jobs. If you select the outreach button and add those individuals to the outreach, this is where you will be able to personalize that specific outreach for that individual. So if I go ahead and edit here, as you can see, I can change the subject line, I can amend the content, I can add new attachments, whatever it may be. You'll be able to do that very simply by clicking our 3 dots, personalized stages, and yeah, the specific stage. So that's email 1, email 2, email 3, and email 4. And naturally, once I'm happy, then I'll add that individual into that outreach campaign. And once it's turned on and the person has a valid email address, everything will fire as expected. I did miss something now that it's just sprung to mind. So specifically for ABP anyway, what I certainly would recommend is looking at the email priority. So the email priority is basically Lorcan as an individual who's sitting on your database, or a profile on your database could have 10 different emails. He could have personal email, he could have a work, he could add an alternate, whatever it may be. Given that this campaign is for business development efforts, I would not necessarily remove, but I would disable the personal email and the alternate and put the work email to the top of that priority list. Meaning that if somebody has more than one email, you are sending the work email as that priority, and that's what the outreach campaign is going to run off. If you're then happy with the outreach campaign and how it works, what you can do is you can save it as a template for your team to use for future iterations of that specific campaign that you're working with on the customer. Hopefully that answers your question, Lex.
So a couple more questions kind of following that same train of thought. One, when you start a campaign and then add in all of the decision makers, would they be sent individually? Is that one email that then is BCC'd out to all of those people? How does that work?
Really good question. No, absolutely not. Nobody's BCC'd or CC'd. They're two completely different emails, or 10 different emails. They're coming for your domain. We've now put some limits in place. We've always had it, but now it's just more front facing for your visibility in terms of how those emails go out. So if you guys jump into settings, you will need to be an admin for this. But in terms of email safety and email deliverability, obviously that's hugely important. So if I just jump into settings here, and on the left-hand column under workspace, you'll see email. This is where you'll be able to see the safety tolerance as well. So they're not all clumped together in one large email. They are sent separately, but those emails, a part of outreach campaigns, are throttled, and they're throttled within 30-second intervals to really help you kind of avoid a spam filter, so to speak. Because again, the assumption of a spam email would be they start a campaign, add in as many people as possible, send it all out, their domain gets blocked, and they set up a new one tomorrow. Obviously, for you guys, we want to replicate human behavior. So personalizing and that throttle will really, really help with that email deliverability, as well as all of the other factors that I mentioned on that help article.
One more question related to email deliverability that we've gotten quite a few times. We said at one point, small batch sends. What exactly does that mean? Is that 10? Is that 100? Is that 1,000? What's small?
The honest answer from what I've seen, there is no perfect small. Every company is completely different, has their own email chains that they've sent out. Loxo could be sending out 10,000 emails a day. The next company could be sending out 1,000 emails a day. A small batch would be considered of what your usual or your average kind of send out would be. So obviously, if you're used to sending out 20 cold emails a day, that's your batch. So sending consistently is certainly important. Don't just massively increase your send outs and what you're doing. What I definitely would recommend is if you take a look at reporting, you'll be able to see all of the activities associated with outreach emails and sent emails. Look back for the past 6 months, see what your send rates are like over a month, and then that'll give you that kind of golden nugget, so to speak, as to what your safety net is, rather than us telling you the golden answer. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist.
And on that note, there are a ton of questions on email deliverability, email best practices in general, outreach best practices. We have a very comprehensive guide. We've done a ton of content on this. So we will be sending that out after the webinar. So hopefully a lot of those questions, if they're not getting answered right now, will be answered in that guide, as far as A/B testing, just, subject lines, email contents in general, and then also how to leverage AI without leaning too heavily into the automation, where a couple of people have said automated emails, we just don't even answer them anymore. So we get into a lot of that in some resources that we'll be sharing after the recording. One more kind of technical question. What if a person is already in your database? How does Loxo handle that? Is it merged? Do they create a duplicate? How, from just kind of a data perspective, does that work?
Yep, absolutely. So once that individual is in your system, obviously, assumption that there's more data than just a person's name, Loxo will auto merge duplicate individuals based on two criteria. The first criteria is a matching name, so a similar name essentially. So, for example, it could be my middle name, one profile, and the other profile is just my full name. So once there's a similar name, and the second piece of criteria is either a LinkedIn URL or a piece of contact information, such as an email address. Obviously, by bringing that individual into the system, Loxosource will, because that's where you are sourcing through ADP, you're using Loxosource, we will have the LinkedIn URL for that profile. So then it will just automatically merge those two individuals. In the scenario where you're looking through the ADP window, it will actually tell you. So if I were to click on Ilya and Ilya was already in my database, it would actually open up Ilya's profile that already lives there. It just automatically registers, so to speak. So you don't even need to worry about that. If they're in your database, you will click that button and it'll open up that profile for you.
Okay, and then another question that we have is, once they're added to our database, can you change whether they're added as a manager, a candidate, or a contact? It seems like some people have been having an issue of a lot of these contacts being assigned as candidates. Is that user error, or is there some kind of way that we can kind of navigate that?
I would have to check that out. Angela, Sam, do you guys have any insights on that? We certainly can come back on that one.
I definitely think it's worth coming back on that one, but I can show where you would change that. So if you are coming them in, you'd be go ahead and bringing them from type. Definitely going to bring that feedback and can take a look at that for you.
Awesome. Okay, let me see here. So another question that we're getting is reporting. We mentioned at one point that we can go through and see kind of email deliverability, email performance, and all of that stuff. What else can we get into from the reporting side of things when it comes to account-based prospecting? Or what should we be looking at is another good question here. I know Sam get into, like what does success look like with ABP on the podcast episode that went out today. So that will also be sent out following this. But if anyone wants to touch on that now, that would help too.
Yeah, the reporting side, natively what lives in Loxo, that's going to be what's to come, V2, V3, V4, as we figure out this workflow. Like, how are people added in as contacts, as candidates? Like, that's all going to inform the reporting. So on the back end, okay, how does Loxo Deals evolve, the sales CRM side? Because the ideal end state for an ABP is, again, you've mapped your entire universe of potential prospects. You know exactly where they sit. I've never engaged with them. They are familiar with us. They've chatted with us. They're a customer. And that's the type of stuff that you're going to be looking at, is not how many deals can I close tomorrow, trying to capture that 5%, but I need to have relationships with all these people. And so that's what we're going to be working on with the reporting to figure out, is this working? Is this not? But you can always look at leading metrics. What does engagement rate look like from emails? How many responses am I getting when I do send this more tailored, relevant email over to people? So that's going to be the important part that you want to get into, is figuring out, until we have that longer term reporting, the visuals in place, it's going to be similar to just what you kind of already know. How do I understand if this is working? If this isn't, are you having good conversations with people, with the right people? Are they making progress? When you call them, hey, it's Sam from Loxo. Hey, it's Sam from World's Best Recruiting Agency. Are they familiar with your company? Are they familiar with you? And that's how you're going to start to understand, have you been doing the right things with this strategy?
Awesome. Anything else that anyone wants to add on that point specifically?
No, I think we're good, and we're about wrapping up. I'd say if we've got one more good question, and then we'll put a bow on this.
Okay, so I think we've had a couple of questions around just biz dev in general, using a combination of other tools like Apollo and other outreach tools, and combining all of that with also using Loxo on the recruitment side. What is the benefit of someone coming back into Loxo, bringing all of that into the same platform, and just kind of having Loxo be their home for business development and prospecting as well?
I have a marketing point of view, but I'm going to let Lorcan and Angela speak to this first before I say that side.
There we go. I couldn't find my unmute button. Yeah. So obviously, from our perspective, we want you guys to be using Loxo to its fullest capabilities, day in, day out. We want it to be your home for everything. We don't want you guys going elsewhere. Obviously, features will differ between different platforms, but ultimately, the goal of using Loxo for your BD efforts allows your team to have just a centralized view of absolutely everything that's going on. Let's say Lorcan goes on holidays for a week. What's going on with this client, with that client, rather than jumping from tool to tool and touch point to touch point, which naturally costs money. The idea is ultimately to have everything in Loxo at your fingertips. So you, as a business owner, as a recruiter, whatever it may be, has that kind of holistic, centralized view of everything that's going on in the system. That's, I suppose, from a CS view, Angela, if I'm right in saying, from we naturally want our customers in the system, using it to its capabilities. But Sam, do you want to approach it from a marketing lens?
Oh, yes. All the jargon. I'm going to try to unjargonify it, though. We're solving for recruiters the ultimate job to be done at the end of the day. And so we want to help give everything in one place so you can just have it be easy. You don't have to worry about patchwork integrations, but more so, it's going to be more cost efficient for you. It's going to save you money. It's going to save you time on that front. But also the side that we just know so many of our team members here have been recruiters. They understand the pain. It's, how do we equip you to do what you do best, what you enjoy the most? And that's developing the relationships with clients. It's chatting with the candidates. And so that's also the vision we're going with all of the agentic AI items. So if you haven't checked that out yet, loxo.co, on our website, we have under products agentic AI if you want to learn more about that. But a lot of the things that we've been talking about today are going to be built into that. So you'll have AI agents that can go and source the prospects of contacts, the decision makers, the people for you. It's going to help with the outreach. So getting that all personalized, you don't have to build every single campaign. It can do some of those sends for you. Where ultimately the end goal is, you just go to your calendar, you press enter meeting, you're talking to a prospect, you're talking to a candidate. But that's the end all vision, is by having that all in one place, we have all that information for you, and it makes it as seamless and relevant as possible because it is all so tightly interconnected with each other. So I think that does it. I know I'm looking at the Q&A. We've had almost 300 questions come in. I apologize. We did not get to answer all of them. You guys have been great in asking these, but we are going to follow up. You will get the recording. We will take these questions and we'll incorporate as much of them into the follow-up or in future pieces of content that will be coming out. But want to thank all of you for coming and attending. Hopefully this was helpful to get a sense for what this all included. Want to thank Angela and Lorcan for you guys coming and sharing your knowledge and expertise with the product. Lex, Vivian, Dan, Denton, thank you for helping manage the almost 300 questions that have come in from Q&A. And most importantly, thank you to everyone who has come and is excited about learning about account-based prospecting. So if you have additional questions, you want to learn more, you know where to find us. We're all happy to help, and we want to help you continue to succeed. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate the time, and we'll see you all around soon. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.